Good day to you. My name is Avery. Welcome back to the Counterculture Teen Podcast. Here we are with another History Edition mini episode. Our topic for today is pretty interesting. The Battle of Athens. But this isn't Athens in Greece. Nope. This happened right on American shores, in Athens, Tennessee, back in 1946. Picture this. World War II just ended. The troops are coming home, and instead of getting a peaceful welcome, they find themselves in the battle zone of their local government. Also known as the McMinn County War, it is widely considered the only successful armed political rebellion in America since the Revolutionary War. Let's dive right in. So, to understand why things got so explosive, we have to look at what these World War II veterans were coming home to in early 1946. For years, McMinn County was completely controlled by a corrupt political machine, which is a highly organized political party or group that depends on connections and favors in order to stay in power. It was run by the local sheriff, Paul Cantrell. His regime was notorious for voter intimidation, ballot tampering, and taxpayer abuse. They even had a fee system where deputy sheriffs, many of whom were ex-convicts, would harass and arrest citizens just to collect fee money. Imagine surviving the battles of Europe or the Pacific, only to return to your hometown and be met by crooked deputies demanding you empty your pockets or go to prison. The vets were completely fed up. In response, they decided to fight back. Legally. In May of 1946, they formed the GI Nonpartisan League and put forward their own candidates, including a veteran named Knox Henry for sheriff. Their motto? The votes would be counted as cast, meaning no vote would go uncounted. But Boss Cantrell wasn't about to lose his power. He hired around 200 special deputies, mostly armed guys from out of state, to show up at the polls and pressure voters. The tension was rising fast. Fast forward to Election Day. Things turned ugly fast. Armed deputies started breaking election laws right out in the open, barring GI poll watchers from keeping an eye on the ballot boxes. Early that morning, a GI watcher named Walter Ellis was arrested just for protesting these oddities. Then, around 3 p.m., the spark became a blaze. At the Athens Waterworks polling place, a deputy named Windy Wise beat an elderly black voter named Tom Gillespie with brass knuckles and shot him when he tried to run. After the shooting, an angry crowd gathered. Realizing a revolt was inevitable, Cantrell shut down several polling stations, stole the ballot boxes, and took 2 GI poll watchers hostage. And where did he take them? Straight to the heavily fortified McMinn County Jail. Now, the veterans knew the state and federal authorities weren't going to swoop in to save the day, and they were severely outgunned. So, they took matters into their own hands. A group of GIs broke into the local National Guard armory and armed themselves with military-grade weapons, such as M1 Garands, Thompson submachine guns, and plenty of ammo. By 9 p.m., dozens of armed veterans and fired-up townspeople surrounded the jail. When the deputies refused to give up the ballot boxes and hostages, a massive, hours-long firefight erupted. Thousands of rounds were flying. By the early morning of August 2nd, the standoff was still going. The veterans realized that if this dragged on to the next day, the state police would arrive as reinforcements for the corrupt sheriff. They needed to end it once and for all, so they went full pyro and brought out the dynamite. They launched multiple sticks of dynamite onto the porch and roof of the jail. The blast completely blew up the front of the building and literally flipped police cars upside down. By 3 a.m., completely crushed by the dynamite and running low on ammo, the deputies inside finally surrendered. Meanwhile, Cantrell and the sheriff managed to slip away in the dark and escape. The veterans locked up their remaining deputies to protect them from the angry mob of townspeople. The GIs received the ballot boxes, brought them to the courthouse, and a bipartisan committee safely counted the votes. The result? A total landslide victory for the GI League, and Knox Henry was officially named the new sheriff. Since the old police force was totally dismantled and everyone was all shaken up, the veterans formed a makeshift police force to patrol the streets, keep the peace, and prevent any crime until the new officials were sworn in. The political machine was officially toppled. So now, an event this wild leaves a lot of room for modern debate, especially regarding how people view it today, and whether their strategy was a bit over the top or completely justified. Let's tackle a couple questions just to clear some things up. Question 1. How did the media react compared to the local residents? The national media's reaction back then was immediate and incredibly panicked. Major newspapers, like the New York Times, reacted with total horror, running sensationalized headlines. Some even mistakenly reporting that the sheriff had been executed. The media deeply feared this would spark a nationwide wave of vigilante veteran groups, taking over towns by force. But locally, the residents looked back on it with immense pride. To them, it wasn't lawlessness. It was a community coming together and standing up to tyranny. Question 2. Did the veterans' World War II experience change how this played out? Definitely. The men who came back to Athens weren't ordinary citizens. They were battle-hardened veterans. This directly influenced their strategy. The local deputies were used to bullying and intimidating unarmed citizens who couldn't fight back. But when they went up against vets who had just spent years facing down actual enemy armies, the dynamic was completely shifted. The veterans didn't flinch when the shooting started. They organized tactical perimeters and used demolition tactics to seize victory. So, to wrap it all up, the Battle of Athens was a 24-hour war where regular citizens used military force to overthrow a corrupt local political regime that had rigged an election. It's a fascinating piece of history that feels deeply connected to modern conversations about government power and the Second Amendment. A lot of 2A supporters look at this historical event as a prime example of why the right to bear arms exists in the first place. When the peaceful route completely failed and the system was hijacked, direct confrontation felt like their only choice to restore the vote. But it also brings up a massive point that we need to clarify, especially looking at it through a modern lens. This was an extreme situation where the legal voting system was physically stolen by armed, corrupt actors. It's important to emphasize that this historical event doesn't justify political violence at all. Just because someone doesn't agree with your political views doesn't mean you need to attack them or try to take them out. We have the right to free speech, and that right shouldn't be taken away, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. Censorship and violence are never the answer. We have to trust the peaceful processes we have, even when they're fiercely debating the outcomes. On a lighter note, it's just a wild reminder of how crazy history can be right in our own backyards. As always, all verified sources for today's episode will be linked in the description below. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of CCT. Glad to have you here. If you listen to the whole thing, hey, thanks for having an excellent attention span. I know it's kind of rare for our generation, but look at you, proving the stereotypes wrong. Don't forget to subscribe to our email list for updates. Follow us on Spotify if that's your preferred podcast place. And check out our website, link in the bio. See you tomorrow. Well, figuratively. You know what I mean. See you on the next episode.